Welcome to the DVMUG Zoom meeting here on April 1st, 2025, also known as April Fool's Day in some corners. We shall follow the typical sequence of news, followed by videos, some miscellany, questions and answers, and social hours. Oh, this morning I thrice asked Siri to tell me some April Fool's jokes. She said, I am not a fan of Russian nesting dolls. They're just so into themselves. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've said it before. How often do I tell chemistry jokes? Periodically. Well, enough of Siri. This week's news. News summary for 4/1/2025. Now, this information is in PDF form on the DVMUG, and by clicking on the URLs, you can get to them. The summaries are in this, which I obtained this morning from John Sobraro on Apple releases. Apple's latest operating system updates bring Apple Intelligence to more languages and regions. They improve photos organization. They expand mail categorization to the Mac and the iPad and address what must be a good record number of security vulnerabilities. And on the, it says here, don't wait to update. It introduces key security fixes. Apple's iOS 18.4 and iPad S 18.4 updates contain multiple fixes to keep your data secure. Here's what you need to know and why you should consider updating. And Apple Insider also says at the same time as updating its current operating system, Apple has issued a few updates for older versions of iOS. And
Mac OS. There's massive amounts of older stuff. They did everything like 3 versions back on the iOS and the Mac OS and TV OS, the HomePod, the watch, everything.
Yeah. And by clicking those URLs, you can get all of that information in. On to the other news. Jamie Cuevas from OSX Daily says that the Worldwide Developer Conference 2025 starts June 9th, has iOS 19 and Mac OS 16 expected to debut. Turkey launches probe into Apple's alleged price fixing, according to William Gallagher at Apple Insider. Apple legally responsible for age verification of App Store users in Utah, according to Ben Lovejoy of 9 to 5 Macs. The following are the synopses on these news items, except for the updates, which were already summarized. The Worldwide Developer Conference starts June 9th. iOS 19 and Mac OS 16 expected to debut. And if you want to read speculations about what's coming, you can do so at the URL indicated here. However, there is a big to-do here. Apple's big Worldwide Developer Conference keynote is coming, and I don't care, says David Price, editor of Macworld and Apple Breakfast. You can read about Price's opinion on that Apple has recently been over-promising, under-delivering at the URL indicated. Any comments or questions on those? Oh, I went to the wrong direction. Turkey launches a probe into Apple's alleged price fixing, according to William Gallagher, Apple Insider. Turkish authorities are investigating an accusation that Apple and local resellers set prices in contravention of anti-competition laws. As part of this same investigation, Apple is accused, along with other unnamed firms, of coordinating buyback prices for its products. So their seller is not able to set their own trade-in value under these conditions. If there are penalties, Turkey could fine Apple and its resellers up to 10% of their worldwide gross annual income in the year preceding the year when the violation occurred. In a similar case in Italy in 2021, Apple was ultimately fined $152 million. Any comments or questions? All right. Apple is legally responsible for age verification of App Store users in Utah, according to Ben Lovejoy, 9to5Mac. Apple and Google will become legally responsible for age verification of App Store users in Utah after the App Store Accountability Act was signed into law. It takes effect on May 7th, giving the tech giants a little time to implement it. A growing number of state legislators seem to have been persuaded of this argument, with at least 9 of them working on passing bills to pass the responsibility to app stores. 9to5Mac has a take on this issue. First, it's more practical for a handful of app store providers to carry out the check once per account rather than each individual app developer having to do it. Additionally, both companies often have credit card details on file indicating adult account holders, simplifying the task. They also feel that second, date of birth documentation is sensitive personal information. I'd be way happier trusting Apple with that information than I would disclosing it to the likes of Meta and X. Their third comment, iOS 18.4 sees Apple ask your age when you set up a new iPhone, though in fact the company doesn't currently verify this. Any comments?
I think, and Ken can verify this, that there was a court finding that you can pass a law to make somebody do something, but if they're unable to do that, then the law is void. But I'm not a lawyer, but I think that that's the case. So if they can pass that law, but how the heck are you going to verify it over the internet?
I'm not aware of any such law or any case on that, but yeah, how are you going to verify it over the internet? It's easy to lie.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm lying. I'm telling people I'm 163 years old.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what was it? I remember a judge once made an order, and the district attorney said, "Judge, you can order me to walk on water, but I'm gonna drown."
How are social media sites verifying it age now, like Instagram?
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, I thought part of the perks of the internet was a certain amount of anonymity, boy, if that's the word. So I mean, like you said, you can read my thumbprint all day long, but if my thumbprint isn't connected to anything. Well, when you sign up for a Facebook account, I know they ask you for your age, so you put in your proper age to know what you are, but there's nothing stopping you from putting whatever. It doesn't say your age. You put in your birth date is what they want. Yeah, I think Google might do the same thing when you sign up for a Google account. Yeah, I mean, I think Ken looks great for 110 or whatever he said he was.
Yeah.
I almost never use my birth date. I give somebody else's birth date
Well,
when I'm signing up for
because it
something.
starts with 18.
You know, there were some states about a year ago that passed a law requiring age verification for certain, shall we say, sites of an adult nature. Their response was to just block all the IPs from those states so they can't access it.
Well,
I have an idea.
Which is interesting considering they were some of their best customers.
That's why they're their best customers.
Now, my idea would never fly. What about parental responsibility?
Are your parents going to take?
We can't have that.
Ken, are your parents going to take responsibility for you?
Yeah, I could ask Mom about it. She might be willing to. She can sign for me.
Took up responsibility for me years ago.
Say, Mike, I thought your thumb bone's connected to your knuckle bone. Your knuckle bone's connected to your wrist
bone.
Hey, Mom,
Wrist
what do you
bone's
think?
connected to ya.
Well, the problem with putting in your
Trombone?
birth date is, yeah, that's supposed to tell them what age you are, but sometimes you lose your password or something. That's one of the things they ask you is what's your birth date. So if you gave some arbitrary birth date you don't remember, you better write it down so you can put it in when they ask you what that is when you lose your password.
I use a real one. It's just that that person is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Right. Remember what it is. Put it in your notes.
Well, here's a question, Rick. Do you write yours down in Roman numerals or?
Like when they ask you 3 security questions. What was your first car? What was your childhood best friend? In your password app, in the notes field, write down the question and the answer because you'll never remember what you said.
Oh, God, no.
Did you say Chevy or did you say Chevrolet?
You can keep all that stuff in your password manager and under notes.
Okay, we'll move on to
Yes.
the videos. Once again, these are on the BBS and you can access them by clicking on the URLs.
They're in the chat too, also.
First video is by Tom Wells, Prop Runners Tech. 8 brilliant things your iPhone can do right now.
It's mid-March as I'm making this video, which means we're only a few months away from WWDC, Apple's annual event where they announce the next version of iOS. With the recent news that the new version of Siri has been indefinitely delayed, it is anyone's guess what we're actually going to get this year. But while we wait, I thought I'd share some iPhone tips and tricks that you can make use of right now, features that I think most people don't even know about. Okay, let's get into it. On my home screen, you can see that I have a couple of widgets, and while they're really useful, they do sometimes take up a bit too much screen space. It would be great if there was a way to organize them into folders, just like you can with apps. Well, there is actually a way to do this, and there are 2 different methods depending on how much control you want. The first way is to create a smart stack. To do this, tap and hold on the home screen for just a second until the edit menu appears. Then tap the plus button in the upper left corner and choose Add Widget. At the top of the list, you should see Smart Stack. Tap on it, then add it to your home screen. Once it's on your screen, you can scroll through the different widgets in your stack by swiping up or down. If you want to edit the stack, long press on it for a second and choose Edit Stack. Here you can remove widgets by tapping the minus button next to any of them, or you can drag and reorder them to customize how they appear. If you scroll down, you'll also see an Add Widget option. Tapping the plus button in the upper left will bring up a list of all your compatible widgets, allowing you to add new ones to your stack. So you can really get granular with how you set this up. But there's actually an even quicker way to do this if all you want is to combine 2 or 3 widgets into a single stack. Instead of creating a smart stack manually, just long press on an existing widget on your home screen until you can drag it around, just like you do with apps. Then simply hover over another widget and drop it on to create a stack. You can repeat this process to add more widgets to the stack, and once it's created, you can swipe through them to rotate between them. Here are some useful tips related to editing your home screen. In my current example, I've got my main home screen, and if I swipe to the right, I have a second screen of apps, and if I swipe again, I have even more apps on a third screen. Now, you can drag apps between different screens, and an easy way to do this is to tap and hold on an app to start dragging it. Instead of hovering it all the way to one side, which can be a bit slow, use another thumb or finger to swipe between pages in the background. This allows you to quickly move between different home screen pages and drop the app wherever you want. But here's something you might not know. If you tap on the dot just above the dock at the bottom of your screen, this opens a view where you can enable or disable entire screens of apps. So let's say you have a screen full of app tiles that you don't actually need on your home screen all the time. Instead of deleting everything, you can just deselect that page and it will no longer be visible. If you want to completely remove a page, you can tap the minus button to delete it. Now, doing this doesn't delete the apps. You can still find them by using search or by going into the app library. And here's one last trick. On this app page management screen, you can tap and hold on an entire app page and move it around to reorder your home screen pages. So if you've always wanted to change the order of your app pages without having to rearrange everything manually, this is the quickest way to do it. You probably already know about live text, the feature on your iPhone that allows you to select text within an image, copy and paste it elsewhere, or look up more information about it. But what you might not realize is that if your iPhone supports live text, and that's any device that can run iOS 18, you can actually access live text directly within the camera app without even taking a photo. For example, here I've opened the camera app and pointed my phone at some text. You'll notice a live text button appear in the bottom right corner. I don't need to take a picture. I can just tap on this button and my phone will instantly recognize the text. From here, I can tap copy all in the bottom left corner to copy the text to my clipboard, or I can access additional tools from the menu bar above the text. I can copy the text, translate it, share it, or press lookup to search the web for more information on that particular term. It's much quicker and easier than taking a picture and selecting the text afterwards. Another useful feature in the camera app is scanning QR codes. You simply point your camera at a QR code and a URL or action will pop up for you to tap. However, this doesn't always work as effectively as it should. And if you scan QR codes regularly, there is a much better way to do this. Go to Control Center, enter Edit Mode, and if you don't already have a QR scanner in your Control Center, tap Add a Control at the bottom. Then in the Search Controls field at the top, type Scan. You'll see an option called Scan Code under both Capture and Utilities. Tap on either one to add it to your control center. Now, the next time that you need to scan a QR code, instead of relying on your camera app, just swipe down to access Control Center and tap the Scan Code button. Your phone will immediately detect the QR code and perform the associated task. Sign up for my weekly newsletter, which is all about tech news and tips delivered free to your inbox each Friday. Sign up via the QR code on screen or the link in the description. If you sometimes find it difficult to read text on your iPhone, there are a couple of text-related accessibility features that can make things much easier, and even better, you can add them to Control Center for quick access. The first feature is text size, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to quickly adjust the text size on your iPhone without having to go through settings every time. To enable this, open Control Center, long press to enter Edit Mode, then tap Add a Control at the bottom of the screen. In the search bar at the top, type text, and you'll see an option called Text Size. Tap on it and it will be added to your Control Center. Now, the next time that you open Control Center, you'll see a text size option. You can either long press to access granular text size controls or simply use the slider to adjust the text size up or down. As you adjust, you'll notice the text size in Control Center itself gets larger, so you can immediately see the difference. If you long press on the text size option, you'll also get an additional setting where you can choose whether to adjust the text size for all apps or just for the home screen and system menus. If you frequently need to change text size on the fly, this is a great way to do it quickly. The second feature is hover typing, which makes text easier to read while typing. To enable this, go back into Control Center, long press to enter Edit Mode, and tap Add a Control. In the search bar, type hover, then select hover typing to add it to your Control Center. Now, whenever you open Control Center, you can tap to enable or disable hover typing. Once enabled, if you go to an app like Messages and tap into the text composition field, nothing will look different at first. But as soon as you start typing, you'll see a floating text box appear above the keyboard, giving you a much clearer, enlarged version of what you're typing. By default, the floating text box displays text at the same size and font, but on a black background, which can make it easier to read. But you can customize this even further. To do this, go into Settings, tap Accessibility, then Keyboards and Typing, and select Hover Typing. Here you can customize the floating text box in several ways. You can tap into Size and increase or decrease the text size. You can also go into Font and select a different font style. There's even an option to change the display colors, so you can adjust the background, text, and border colors to whatever works best for you. If you ever want to reset everything back to default, there's a Reset to Default button at the bottom. Now, if I go back into my Messages app and start typing, the floating text box now reflects all of my changes, making it much clearer and easier to read. Everything still works as normal. I can tap and hold the spacebar to move the cursor and make edits wherever I need. So if you don't need larger text everywhere, but you just want a clearer view of what you're typing, hover typing is a really useful tool to know about. And if you ever decide that you don't need it anymore, just go back to Control Center and tap hover typing to turn it off. If you're listening to a podcast and hear a section that you really want to share with a friend, chances are you don't expect them to listen to the entire 1 hour episode just to find that specific moment. There are actually a couple of ways to share a podcast from an exact timestamp so that the person you're sending it to can start listening from the section that you want them to hear. If your screen looks like this while the podcast is playing, just tap the pause button. You can use the back 15 seconds button to rewind a little and get to the start of the section that you want to share. Once you're at the right spot, tap the menu just above the play bar, then choose Share Episode. When you do this, you'll see an option that says From Start. Tap this, and you can then adjust the timestamp to exactly where your playhead is currently at. Now, when the person receives the podcast link and taps on it, it will begin playing at that exact time instead of from the very beginning. But there's actually an even better way to do this. Instead of using the share button, press the speech bubble icon in the bottom left corner. This will bring up the podcast transcript, allowing you to scroll through and find the exact section that you want to share. Once you find the section, tap and hold on the text for a second, and you'll see an option that says Share From, along with the exact timestamp where the section appears. Mail or any other sharing method, and just like that, your friend will be able to start listening from the exact part of the episode that you wanted to share. You probably already know that if you're reading an article in Safari and you want your phone to read it out loud, you can do this by tapping the reader button in the address bar and then choosing Listen to Page. Your phone will then begin reading the article using Siri's voice. But if you prefer to do this without pressing so many buttons, there is an even easier way. Instead of going through the reader mode menu, just long press the power button on the side of your device to access Siri and say, "Read me this article." Siri will immediately start reading the article aloud, allowing you to listen hands-free without needing to navigate through any extra menus. Your iPhone has a really impressive search feature for music artists, and I think most people have absolutely no idea that this even exists. To access it, just use Spotlight Search. You can do this by swiping down on the home screen or tapping the search button on your home page. Then in the search box, type in the name of the music artist that you want to find out about. So for example, if I type in Kendrick, my iPhone will assume that I'm looking for Kendrick Lamar, and he'll appear as the top hit. Tapping on his name pulls up a ton of information all in one place. At the top, I can jump straight to songs and albums on Apple Music. And if I scroll down, there's a new section, videos, and even quick facts about him. Further down, there are direct links to his social media profiles, and there's even a listen on section that lets me open his music on other streaming services like Spotify. One of the most interesting features here is the concert section, which is about halfway down the page. If I tap Show More, I can see all of his upcoming tour dates and even filter by region. For example, if I tap UK, I can instantly see all the shows that he has scheduled here this year. And if I want to book tickets, I can tap on a show and my iPhone will take me straight to Ticketmaster. But this doesn't just work for music artists, it also works for film and TV. So if a friend recommends a show that they think I should check out, instead of going to Google and searching for it, I can do exactly the same thing in Spotlight Search and instantly pull up everything I need to know about the show. When I search for a TV show or film, I get a full overview, including links to the cast and crew, a synopsis, and most importantly, all the different ways to watch it. At the top of the screen, my iPhone will show me the streaming services where it's available, making it easy to jump straight into the show. Now, as expected, my phone will try to push me towards Apple TV first, but it is nice to see that it also includes third-party services like Prime Video, Paramount Plus, and other platforms. So instead of opening a web browser and searching manually, you can find everything in seconds with Spotlight Search. The final tip requires Apple Intelligence to work, which is why I saved it until last. But if your iPhone has Apple Intelligence features, let me show you a couple of really useful ways that you can use it for identity protection in your photos. You might already know that you can use the cleanup feature in the Photos app to remove unwanted background objects, but there are a few other things that you can do as well. For example, let's say that I've got a photo with someone's face in it and I want to blur it out for privacy reasons. To do this, I'd tap the edit button at the bottom, then choose cleanup. I'd pinch to zoom in on the photo and then simply circle the person's face. You'll see a box appear at the bottom letting you know that identity protection has been applied. Once I tap done, the face is blurred and the image is saved with the edit applied. Another example would be a car on the street where the license plate is clearly visible. Again, I can use Apple Intelligence to fix this. I'd tap Edit, choose Cleanup, zoom in on the license plate, and circle it just like before. In this case, Apple Intelligence will completely remove the license plate and blend it into the background of the vehicle, making it look as though the plate was never there in the first place. This feature is also really useful when dealing with sensitive documents like receipts. So for example, let's say I've got a receipt and there's a section that I don't want to share in an image. I can tap Edit, choose Cleanup, and zoom in on the section that I want to blur out. By simply scribbling over the text, Apple Intelligence will either completely remove it and blend it into the background of the receipt, or it will distort the text so that it's no longer readable as actual text. So there you go, 8 tips for the iPhone that I think most people have no idea about. What did you think? Anything here you didn't know, or anything that you think I should have included? Drop me a comment and let me know.
Well, any comments or questions?
A lot of information in there that
There
is
sure was.
worthwhile.
There
Yeah,
sure
that was a good one. Almost every one of those tips was very useful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it and take better notes. That was good stuff.
What do you say?
I'd like to add that to Mike Dickerson. I'd love to see the notes afterwards.
Okay. I don't think you'll be able to read my handwriting, but not a problem.
Well, no, you can type them up and use them in class too.
That's cute. You think I can type? Good for you.
I've seen your typing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was full of information, Lee, especially the last one, where you can just wipe out information that before you had to jump through hoops to do it. Now all of a sudden you're able to do it almost effortlessly.
Yeah.
That's a biggie for me. So
I wonder if you can blur a person's face in a video.
Interesting. You
You'll
mean
have to
with
try
the
it.
frame? Well, Rick, why don't you let us know?
In the one section where he was talking about sharing an item and he allowed you to proceed from the point that you were at, did you notice that it also showed just select text? So you didn't have to just start there and watch the rest of it. You could have selected just text. So that's pretty powerful.
yes.
Also showing that was I assume the Apple Podcast app. And I don't know if I don't use that app. I use Overcast. I'm wondering if that has similar feature.
All right, we'll move on. Second video is by Gary.
One more thing, Lee.
Yes.
Did that apply to follow up on Kenji's suggestions? Did that apply only to Apple Podcasts or any podcasts? I was thinking any podcast, as long as there is a podcast, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think it would depend on it's an app feature, I would think. So podcast is the Apple app, but there are many other podcast client apps. The most popular.
Additional piece of information. There is no cleanup in a video edit.
Oh.
All right. Well, second video is by Gary. Where did my Mac file go?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Can't remember where that saved or downloaded file is located? Let's see if we can find it. So if you created a document and then saved it and then later on can't remember where it is, or maybe you downloaded something from a web page and now you can't find it, this is a common problem that a lot of people have, both beginners and experienced users. First, let's talk about prevention. The way to avoid this problem is to note where you save your files and make sure you put them in a good location. So for instance, I'm here in Pages and I've just created a new document and typed my first line of text. Now let's say I want to save it now. I can go to File, Save, or Command S. When I do this, brings up the save dialog. This allows me to name the file and decide where it's going to be saved. So let's name it something really simple here, and then look closely next to where to see where it's going to be saved. In this case, it's going to save it to my last used location, the last time I saved a file, which is my documents folder. So I could click here and select another location. So I want to save it somewhere that makes sense, and I also want to note that location. So I remember that this file is saved to, say, my documents folder. Now, this is the compact version of the save dialog. If I click this little button here, it expands into the full version, which is what you may see. So now I can decide using that same pull-down menu where the file is going to be saved. But I could also select a location in the left sidebar, or I can navigate around in this area here in the main part of the save dialog. So for instance, if I want to save it in this folder right here, I can double click that folder to dive down into it. So now I could see where the file is going to be saved in this folder called current stuff. I want to make sure this is the right place for the file, and also note its location. As a matter of fact, if I click here, notice how it gives me a path all the way up. I've got the current stuff folder, which is in the documents folder, which is in iCloud Drive. So you can get the full picture of exactly where this file is going to be located. Then when I click save, it will save it into that folder. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now let's say I close this document and I want to find it again. Well, one way to find it is to use the Finder, which is how you manage your files. I'm going to go down to the dock here and click on Finder, which will open a new Finder window if there isn't already one there. Now I want to go back to where I remember saving the file, which would be in the Documents folder, and I actually have it here in the left sidebar so I can easily access documents. I could also use Go and then to Documents. It'll take me to the same location. And there's that folder, current stuff, that I remembered using to save that file. So I'm going to double click that to dive down in, and then I see all the files there, and there, sure enough, is the file. I can now double click it to open it. Now another option I've got is to relaunch the app, in this case Pages, where I was before. And chances are it might give me a open dialog, which is kind of the opposite of the save dialog. It allows you to open a file. And it may show the actual location where I last saved something. If not, I can select this pull-down menu here and find that folder and go to it. And there's my file. But I could also go to the File menu, and in most apps you're going to find Open Recent. And here it'll list the last few files that you worked with. So chances are if this is something you just worked with earlier today, yesterday, or this week, it's going to be in this list. And you can select it here and it will open the file. If you use that because you didn't remember where you saved it, you may want to go up to the title here and then click on it. And this will show you the name here and also its location. And you can click here to see where you've saved it. So you can note that for next time. If it's not saved to a good location, you can go to File and then Move To. And now you get that same little pull down menu here, and you can change this location to something else. If you go all the way to the bottom, there's Other, and now you can select any location you want. So for instance, I can go up from Current Stuff to Documents here, and maybe select another folder like this business folder, and then click Move to move it here. So that's where I'll find it next time. But you could also use the Finder to search for a file. So I'm going to click on the Finder icon here in the dock. It'll open a new Finder window, or I could use File, New Finder Window to do that. And let's say it takes me somewhere and I don't see the file that I need. So I want to first start somewhere that makes sense. Perhaps my Documents folder. If I at least know that I probably saved it somewhere in my Documents folder, I could start here. So now I want to click on the search icon, which you'll find at the top right corner of the Finder window. Click on that, and now I want to type something to search. I'm going to use a portion of the name. I may not remember the exact name, but I remember this word was in it. And then I could select Name Contains. And now it was going to look in that location where I started, in this case the Documents folder, and then look for the file. In this case it's found it. If it hasn't found it, I may want to expand the scope of the search to this Mac, and it's going to search everywhere at all the drives connected to the Mac. And so if it wasn't in my Documents folder, it's likely to have found it now. There it is. And note that if I can't remember the name of the file at all, I could search for some contents. So I can click here and then search for some text like that, and then select Content Contains. And then you could see here with this Mac selected, it finds my file even though I didn't use the name of the file. And even if you don't remember the name or the contents of the file, you could go to File, Find, and then search by date. So I could use last modified date or created date or last open date. Let's just use last modified date, so the last time that a change was made to the file. And then I could select one of these, like this week or exactly this day or after a certain day. I'm going to do within the last, say, 3 days. And it's going to find everything that was modified in the last 3 days. I can click the plus button here on the right, and I can further refine the search by selecting kind is a document. So it's not going to show me folders and apps and other things. And I can check here to make sure it's searching the entire Mac, not just one folder. And I could sort by, like, say, name, or what makes more sense here is date last opened. And I could see here right at the top, it's found a document, the most recent open document, and that looks like the one I want. I can double click it to open it or use the space bar to bring up Quick Look to get a preview of the file without opening it and confirm that yes, this is the file that I want. I can close Quick Look and now double click here to open the file. And now I can click here, see where it was saved, and use File, Move To put it in a better location so I can find it next time. Now how about instead of a file you created, you downloaded a file from the internet. For instance, here's a page with the download link. I'm going to click on that link and it's going to download the file. So now that that's done, I'm going to figure out where the file is. So the first place I want to look is in Safari and then Settings, and then go to General here at the top. Then look for File Download Location. And this is where files get downloaded to. So you can see in this case it saves to the Downloads folder. But I could change it to Other or Ask for each download, although that doesn't work for some kinds of downloads on the web. So you still want to make sure your default download location is set to something useful. The Downloads folder is the typical default location. So if I return here to the Finder and then look in the left sidebar, I may see Downloads there. But even if I don't see it there, I can use that Go menu and then go to Downloads. And this will take me to my Downloads folder, and there's the file. Now note, when you go to download something and it's a regular download link like this, you can control click on it, 2-finger click on the trackpad or right click on the mouse, and then select Download Linked File As. Doing that brings up something that looks just like a save dialog, and you could decide where this file goes and save it to the proper location right away instead of putting it in the Downloads folder with maybe a whole bunch of other stuff. And note, when I did click this link, I got a little animation that went from here to this button. This is another way to find your most recent downloads. If you click here, it's going to show all your most recent downloads. And then you can click this little magnifying glass here. It'll open up a new Finder window and take you right to the file. But if you downloaded a file, say, a few days ago, you may not find it here. It may not be in this list at all. If you go to Safari and then Settings and then back to General, there is Remove Download List Items right here. And you can see in this case it's set to after 1 day. So it's perfectly normal for something you downloaded yesterday not to appear in that list. It doesn't mean the file is missing at all. It's just no longer in this handy little reference list in Safari. And one thing that trips up a lot of people is using this Recents folder here. If I select that and look, I could see there is that Pages file I was working on. But where's that file I downloaded? It's not here. That's because this shows you documents that you recently opened. You can see how it even sorts by date last opened to show you your most recently opened file. The reason it hasn't shown me that download is I've never opened the download. I just downloaded it, haven't even looked at it yet. Now, if you still can't find your file using any of those methods, including searching for it, then your next option is to hunt for it. So manually look through your files. So a good place to start is use the Go menu and go Home, and then look at the folders you have here. You may see documents at desktop here or not. They may be in iCloud Drive, but you'll see other folders like movies and pictures. And you can go into these. Just double click to go into them, see what's there. You can go into other folders here. You can go back with this back button or use Command up arrow to go up. And then you could dive down into other folders. Another way to go up, hold the Command key and then select a level to go up to. If you've searched through your home folder and you can't find it, next is to try iCloud Drive. And here I've got my Documents folder in iCloud Drive, so I can go down into that, go down into different folders where I suspect the file may be located and look for it. Another place to look is in iCloud Drive, and then look at some of these other folders at the top level. For instance, there's one for Pages. A lot of apps like to create folders here at this top iCloud Drive level, and sometimes they use that as the default location for saving things. So if you're just searching in your Documents folder, you may miss a file that's actually in the Pages folder, and you can look in here just to see if it's there. So if you haven't found your file now, you may be out of luck. It's not where you thought you put it. You couldn't find it in the recent documents for that app. You couldn't find it with various different searches, and just looking around in your different folders didn't turn it up. It could be simply that the file is named something different than you thought. So you want to go back and do these, expanding your search and thinking about the contents of the file or what it could be called. But definitely next time you save a file, remember to name it well and save it to a location where you'll know you'll find it. At the very least, save it to the top level of the Documents folder until you find a better place. The same thing for downloads. Save it to the Downloads folder if you can't think of a better place at that moment, but then when it's convenient, maybe move it into the Documents folder, into a subfolder that makes sense. So I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Well, any comments or questions on that?
Very good review of a lot of good stuff.
Uh-huh.
I have a question. On one of the pages in the Finder, he had where you could see the names of the files. It had two different kinds of cloud icons. Some had a little line down and some didn't. What do those two icons mean?
That's the status of the file. If it had a little down arrow, it means it's not on your computer. It's only a placeholder, and the originals are always in the cloud. So you have to click on that. When you click on it, it will download the file. That only happens when you have optimized storage turned on. When you have, typically you only want to do that if you have small hard drive and it's getting full. If you have enough space, you want to keep the originals on your hard drive so they get backed up to your time machine.
Right. Okay, they didn't look like arrows. I couldn't see there were arrows there.
It's a cloud with little down arrows. Yeah.
Okay.
Vern's got his hand
Vern.
up.
Does Vern Hans have a question?
He may be muted.
You're muted, Vern. Vern,
Vern, if
unmute.
you want to ask a question, you gotta unmute yourself. Vern.
Or you can just press the space bar to talk.
Okay. He said quick look can be done by pressing the space bar, and I like to use that a lot, but I find my new Mac Mini doesn't respond that way, and I don't know, there's probably a place to set it, and I don't know how to reset it so that that occurs again. You know, somebody give me a clue to how to activate the space bar quick look feature?
I don't know that you can turn it off.
Is it an Apple keyboard?
You're muted again, Vern.
Yes, it is an Apple keyboard. It's not the newest. It's not a current one. It's probably 10 years old.
That doesn't matter.
But space bar is a space bar, I think.
Yeah, space bar is a space bar. So you click on a file in Finder and then you press the space bar and it doesn't pop up. And
that's correct.
You might want to go into settings and check. Is it under keyboards where you have shortcuts set up? Something else might be using it.
What do you mean something else might be using it?
It might be set for some other app might. Yeah, it's like general.
So Vern, is this just started happening to you, or is it?
It's happened from the day one when I first expected to use it on that machine. I've never been able to make it happen, and I've typically used it for files from everything from JPEGs to PNGs to PDFs, and it always seems to work on my older computers, but the space bar doesn't.
The age of the keyboard shouldn't make a difference, but do you have a newer keyboard around?
Yeah, I haven't tried any other keyboards with it.
I would try it. It could conceivably be the age of the keyboard. It's possible.
Okay.
I don't think so, because my crumb catcher, it works fine. And I've also tried.
I don't think so either, but it's worth a try.
Is it a wireless keyboard?
No, I do have another keyboard that I'm using a wireless device with, but not on this computer yet. I guess I could try the wireless one, which actually is a wireless keyboard transmitter that's plugged into my PC, which I hardly ever use.
I wonder.
Experiment with keyboards and explore the keyboard area of the general feature.
What's obstructing your camera there?
I don't know. Well, I'm moving my laptop around a little bit.
But anyway, I was wondering if there is crumbs under the keyboards preventing you from doing certain things.
I don't think so. I don't think it's that dirty. And a lot of keyboards, I try and store them either with a cover over them or turn them upside down when I put them. And so I don't think that's an issue, but switching keyboards would probably verify that is or isn't.
It's not a keyboard problem, right?
Especially if you got another computer where the spacebar is working, swap the keyboards between the computers and see if the problem follows the keyboard to the other computer and vice versa.
Okay, I'll follow that up and bug you with it next week if I can't make any progress. Thank you.
So Google AI Overview says, if your Mac spacebar isn't activating Quick Look, try relaunching Finder, disabling enable full keyboard access and accessibility settings, or force quitting the Quick Look UI service and activity monitor.
Or just restart the computer.
Yeah.
When in doubt, when's the last time you restarted the computer? Well, it never worked since you got the menu.
Yeah, well, I've restarted a number of times since I got it, so the restarting doesn't do anything.
So how about disabling enable full keyboard access, which is in accessibility settings? See if that helps.
Okay, I'll explore those, but I want to listen in to what other intelligence is floating around this meeting, so I'll not monopolize any more of the talk.
I think you may be in the wrong meeting, Vernon, if you're looking for that.
Well, Vern, let us know in the VBS what came up with that. Third video is by Tom Wells, Proper Honest Text. 8 things I hate about the iPhone, but you can easily fix them.
Earlier this week, I made a video where I talked about 10 things that I hated about the iPhone operating system with tips on how to fix them. And it definitely got people talking in the comments. Fortunately, there are more things that I can talk about. So in this video, I'm going to share 8 more frustrations about the iPhone with you, along with tips on how to fix them. Okay, let's get into it. If you've recently moved house like I just did, you might find that your phone keeps directing you to your old home address every time you get into your car. This happens because your home address is saved in multiple places, so you'll need to update it manually to stop your phone from defaulting to the wrong location. The first place to update your address is in the Contacts app. You can open this by tapping the app on your home screen or by using Spotlight Search and typing in Contacts. At the top of the Contacts app, you'll see your own contact card labeled with your name and the words My Card underneath. Tap on it, scroll down to the home address section, and chances are it still has your old address saved. To update it, tap Edit in the top right corner, scroll back down and either manually overwrite your home address or tap the minus button, then delete to remove it entirely. If you delete it, tap Add Address, enter your new home address, and make sure it's labeled as home before saving. The second place that you'll want to update your address is in the Maps app. Open Maps the same way, either by tapping the app or using Spotlight Search. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a section called Library. If your old home address is already saved here, tap on it and choose Edit. If you haven't set a home address, in Maps before, you'll see a house icon with an add button next to it. Tap this and enter your new home address. You can either search for your address manually, or if you've already updated it in Contacts, your iPhone may suggest it automatically, so you can just select it from the list. Once you've done this, your home address will be updated in both Contacts and Maps, and moving forward, your phone should only recommend your correct home address when giving you directions. A couple of years ago, Apple made a change that probably flew under the radar for a lot of people, but if you're someone who finds this kind of thing really annoying, you've definitely noticed it. When you're listening to audio on your iPhone and your screen locks, the play controls remain on your lock screen. Everything you'd expect, like play, pause, rewind, fast forward, AirPlay, and scrubbing through audio. However, there is one key control missing, the volume slider. Apple made this change because they wanted to encourage people to use the physical volume buttons on the device instead of on-screen controls. But if you'd prefer to have the volume slider back on your lock screen, you can actually enable it again. To do this, go to Settings, tap Accessibility, then scroll down to the Hearing section and select Audio and Visual. In here, you'll see a toggle called Always Show Volume Control. Simply turn this on and your volume slider will reappear on the lock screen just like it used to. So if you missed having quick access to the on-screen volume controls, now you know how to get it back. Let's be honest, a lot of people really don't like the new Photos app in iOS 18, and I completely understand why. My biggest complaint is that Apple added a lot of unnecessary fluff, cluttering up the Photos app with sections that I think most people probably won't use. Thankfully, there is a quick and easy way to clean it up and make it more streamlined. Open the Photos app and scroll all the way down until you see an option called Customize and Reorder. Tap into this and you'll see blue checkboxes on the left side of the screen. These allow you to remove anything that you don't want from the Photos app. For example, I like shared albums and recent days, but I'm not interested in trips, people and pets, pinned collections, memories, featured photos, albums, or wallpaper suggestions. On the other hand, I do like media types and utilities, so I tend to leave those in place. You can also use the drag bars on the right-hand side to reorder these sections so that the ones that you actually use appear higher up in the app. If you ever want to reset everything, there is a reset button in the top left corner. Once you're happy with your setup, tap the X in the upper right corner, and you'll find that your Photos app is now significantly cleaner, more organized, and much easier to navigate. If you're enjoying the content here, why not sign up for my weekly newsletter, which is all about tech news and tips delivered free to your inbox each Friday. Sign up via the QR code on screen or the link in the description. In the Messages app, you probably already know that you can send an audio message to someone by tapping the plus button to the left of the message composition field, selecting audio, and then simply speaking your message. But what if partway through the message, you need a moment to think about what you want to say next? You probably don't want to leave a long, awkward pause, but at the same time, you might assume that your only options are to send the message as it is or hit the cross button to start over. However, you don't need to start again. You can actually pick up right where you left off. To do this, just tap the little time button to the left of the blue send arrow. When you tap it, the recording resumes exactly where you left off, essentially working like a pause button. You can do this as many times as you need, allowing you to pause, gather your thoughts, and continue recording without having to restart from scratch. This way, your audio messages stay clean, concise, and to the point before you send it. I personally think that the Control Center redesign in iOS 18 is a good thing overall. I like that you now have so much control over what you include in Control Center and how you want it to look. But my one complaint is that it can sometimes be difficult to remember what all the different icons mean. I often find myself pausing for a second to remind myself what each button does, which isn't ideal when you're trying to quickly access a feature. Thankfully, the customization options in Control Center make it really easy to fix this. To do this, open Control Center and long press anywhere to enter edit mode. Then go through the different buttons that you've added and use the drag bar at the bottom right of each icon to expand them. How big you make the icons is up to you, but I personally find that a horizontal rectangle, 2 tiles in size, is perfect. This size keeps the icon visible while also displaying the name of the function, so you never have to second guess what it does. To resize a tile, just grab the drag bar, drag it down slightly, then to the right to make it wider. And one of the great things about the new Control Center is that if you add too many functions to one page, your iPhone will automatically create a second control center page and move tiles over so you don't run out of space. So now, instead of guessing what each icon does, you can customize your control center to make everything clear and easy to find without sacrificing any of the functionality. A feature Apple introduced in iOS 18 is the grouping of all app settings into a dedicated menu within the Settings app. Now, instead of each app having its own section in Settings, you have to scroll to the bottom, tap Apps, and then find the app that you want from the list. In principle, this is a good change because it declutters the main settings page, but in practice, it adds an extra step when you just want to quickly access an app's settings. Fortunately, there is a faster way to bypass this extra step. Instead of opening settings and scrolling, just use Spotlight Search. Tap the search button on your home screen or swipe down from anywhere on the home screen to bring up Spotlight. Then, if you want to access the settings for the Messages app, simply type Messages Settings. It might appear as the top result, but if it doesn't, just scroll down slightly until you see a Settings section in the results. Tap on Messages Settings and your iPhone will take you straight to that app settings page, no extra steps required. This works for every app on your device, including third-party apps, making it the quickest way to access any app settings without digging through menus. This next tip isn't specific to the iPhone, but it does impact the iPhone, so it's worth including. If you've ever been to a coffee shop, airport, or hotel and tried to connect to the Wi-Fi, you'll know the usual process. You go into Settings, tap Wi-Fi, and select the network that you want. Normally, a login page pops up asking you to enter some information, maybe your email address, phone number, or if you're in a hotel, even your room number before you're granted access. But sometimes that login page disappears before you're finished, and it can be really difficult trying to get it back. Thankfully, there's a simple trick for this. As long as you're just open Safari and type captive.apple.com into the address bar. This will force your iPhone to load the login page for that Wi-Fi network, allowing you to enter your details and get connected without all the hassle. It's a handy one to remember for the next time that you're stuck waiting for that login screen to reappear. When you're typing on the iPhone, your phone might suggest what it thinks is the correct spelling of a word. If you disagree with it, you can override the suggestion, which helps teach your iPhone the spelling or word preferences that you use. Over time, all of this gets added to your iPhone's personal dictionary, making it more customized to you. However, you might find that over time, you've accidentally added words or names that you don't actually want in there. And while there isn't a way to go into the dictionary and make individual changes, you can reset the entire dictionary and start fresh if you need to. The only thing is, this setting isn't where you'd expect it to be. To reset your keyboard dictionary, go into Settings, tap General, then scroll all the way to the bottom and tap Transfer or Reset iPhone. From there, tap Reset at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see an option called Reset Keyboard Dictionary. Tap on that, follow the instructions, and your iPhone's keyboard dictionary will reset back to factory settings. Keep in mind, this means that your iPhone will forget all the custom spellings and words that you've taught it, so you'll need to reteach it over time. But if your keyboard dictionary has become more of a frustration than a help, this could be a good option to clean it up. So there you go, 8 more things that really bug me about the iPhone with tips on how to fix them. Did you check out my previous video? If not, you definitely ought to give it a watch. I'll link to it in the description. And as always, if you...
Well, comments or questions?
He's got good stuff.
Yeah. I particularly like the control center where you can make the names of the apps show up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of Control Center. I'm surprised how many people in my classes don't use it.
The best tip in there for me was making the control center icons bigger so you can see what they actually are.
Yeah. And you could keep the ones that you really know, like flashlight or something, and just do the ones that are kind of obscure, like notes or, voice memos, stuff like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I just tried that with expanding one of those, and it's very helpful. The thing that I'm seeing over and over again in a bunch of these suggestions, though, they never talk about doing a search box to get directly to the function you're looking for. It's very simple when you are in settings to just use the search box. It will give you the choices. You can go right there. You don't need to remember all the navigation to get there. For instance, I type in the search box in settings, I type reset KEYBO, and it gives me the direct link to get to Reset Keyboard Dictionary right there. So trying to remember all the navigations that are in these videos we keep watching, use the search box. It'll be faster. Just my soapbox. Sorry, folks.
You're right.
Okay, moving on. Fourth and last video is by Ellen. Ellen's Tips for Seniors. How to supercharge Siri with ChatGPT on iPhone and iPad.
Maybe not.
In this video, I'll walk you through how to make Siri more useful on your iPhone, and it will also work on your iPad by allowing it to use ChatGPT to handle complex requests. Apple has partnered with OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, to integrate it into Siri and other Apple Intelligence features like writing tools and visual intelligence. If we haven't met, I'm Ellen from Ellen's Tips for iOS, where I help seniors master their iPhones and iPads. If you find the video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Let's start with the devices that support Apple Intelligence. The list is limited to the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, the entire iPhone 16 series, the new iPad mini, and any iPad that uses the Apple Silicon chips, either the M1, M2, M3, or M4. They also need to be running the latest iOS and iPadOS. To set up ChatGPT with Siri, follow these steps to check the status of ChatGPT for your Siri requests. We'll go ahead and we'll open up the Settings app, and then you're going to go ahead and tap on Apple Intelligence and Siri. Be sure that Apple Intelligence is toggled on, and now we're going to scroll down until we see ChatGPT under Extensions, and we're going to tap on that. If Use ChatGPT isn't toggled on, you'll go ahead and turn that on, and you'll follow the setup instructions. Once you have that done, if you have a ChatGPT account, and I do, you can go ahead and set that up underneath where it says ChatGPT account, and this will allow you to sign into your own ChatGPT account. You'll see a daily limit below if you're using a free account or using Apple's integration. You'll also see the option to upgrade to ChatGPT Plus, which is a paid service. Once you have this all set up, you'll be ready to use Siri with ChatGPT. Now, when you ask a complex question that the Apple lady can't handle on her own, she will prompt you to use ChatGPT. Let me show you how this works. Hey Siri, write me a poem about spring. You'll see the prompt pops up. I'll go ahead and I'll tap on Use ChatGPT. The answer will process, and it will be displayed directly on the interface of the screen. And you can go through and check it for important mistakes. You can copy it by using the little copy icon in the upper right-hand corner and paste it anywhere you want. But that's how you get a prompt on your screen if you ask a complex question. You can also ask Siri to ask ChatGPT directly. In this case, you won't see the prompt, but it will automatically use ChatGPT. So let's do that. Hey Siri, ask ChatGPT to create a 5-course meal using beef, chicken, and shrimp. So now it's working in the background, and now it displays the answer on your screen. So that's how to use ChatGPT directly with Siri. One thing to note is that ChatGPT will work even if you use type to Siri instead of speaking. Even though Apple has its own image generation tools like Genmoji, Image Playground, and Image Wand, you can still use ChatGPT to generate images, and it works with a wide range of commands and generally produces better results. So let's create an image. Hey Siri, use ChatGPT to create an image of a cat driving a car wearing a top hat. So there's your image, and if you're happy with it, you can tap on the download button in the upper right corner to save it to your Photos app. You can also, if you ask Siri to generate an image using ChatGPT while inside the Messages app, the message will be inserted into the typing box so that you can send it with one tap. If you want to get info about what's on your screen, you can ask ChatGPT to take a screenshot and explain what it is. So I'll just say, hey Siri, ask ChatGPT to take a screenshot and explain what it is. I can send that screenshot to ChatGPT. It'll put it into the background, and it'll place it right on the screen when it's finished. So you can have ChatGPT work with the text on your screen. You can even open a document or note on your iPhone or iPad and ask ChatGPT to summarize the text or rewrite it. If you want to save what ChatGPT has generated, tap on the copy button in the upper right corner, and then you can paste that into the Notes app and save a copy of that information. Now that I've saved a copy of the information, I can go ahead and open the Notes app, tap on a new note, push and hold on the cursor, tap on paste, and now that information has become a note. There is a certain number of times that you can use ChatGPT per day, and you may exceed the limit. You can continue to use the service, but it will be processed using their basic version of ChatGPT. Most people won't even notice a difference. If you're concerned about privacy aspects of using ChatGPT, your iPhone or iPad only sends your request to ChatGPT without sharing information about your Apple account. Your IP address won't be shared, but your general location is provided to prevent fraud and comply with legal regulations. You can go a step further if you want to protect your privacy. To do that, you'll need to download the ChatGPT app, which I have on my iPhone. Open it. Tap on the 2 lines in the upper left corner. Tap on your name at the bottom. Locate Data Controls, and then toggle off the switch that says Improve the model for everyone. If you don't want to use ChatGPT with Siri, writing tools, or visual intelligence due to your privacy concern, simply turn off the Use ChatGPT switch in iOS settings. I'll show you where that is again. You open Settings, You'll scroll until you see Apple Intelligence and Siri. Tap on that. Scroll down until you see ChatGPT under extensions, and then just go ahead and toggle that switch off. By integrating ChatGPT into Siri, Apple has significantly expanded its capabilities, allowing users to handle more complex requests, generate images, and interact with on-screen content in new ways. Setting up and using ChatGPT with Siri is straightforward with options to customize privacy settings and control usage. While there are limits to the free service, most users will find the integration seamless and beneficial. If privacy is a concern, Apple provides easy ways to disable ChatGPT. Ultimately, this new feature enhances Siri's usefulness, making it a more powerful assistant for iPhone and iPad users. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Any comments or questions?
Very good video. That was very, very useful.
Yes, we're all poets now.
I'm glad she actually touched on the security part of it, because it seems that anybody that loads it without going to that part where it said turn it off, you automatically are sharing your information. So be aware of when you download it, go back in there and decide whether you want to share your information or not. That's a good point she made at the end.
That's actually not true. Well, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, Bruce, but it does not, or Apple does not automatically send any query to ChatGPT. And there's a switch in there where you can be prompted to ask for permission each time before it uses ChatGPT.
Yeah, she said that your identity is not shared. The only thing shared is your geographical location, no IP address or anything.
Right. All right. Moving on to miscellany. I have two items today. Apple Calculator is also a units converter, and remove background replaces copy subject in Apple OS. Apple Calculator is a units converter. Now, thanks to Tom Wells, who suggested this topic but didn't provide much information, I've put a little detail in it. And did you know the calculator on your iPhone allows you to use it as a units converter? Category examples would be currency, angle, energy, speed, etc. To use the convert function in Apple Calculator, first you open the calculator app on your iOS device. Then you click the calculator item on the lower left to access convert screen slider switch. So you follow the arrows, click on this to open this, and then the convert screen opens in the conversion category that was last used. In this example, the units last used was to convert British English dollars to British pounds. To convert in the reverse direction, the little click on the left-hand side of that screen says to switch to key into the British pounds in order to get Apple US dollars. And then you can click on the units indicator on the right-hand side, click and it allows to change units within a category. For instance, the US dollars to French francs. You could
what?
You can select the units within the category, and you can select a different. So it's pretty straightforward. but to know that it's there is kind of nice. The iPad works the same, but the presentation of control icons is somewhat different. So hopefully someone's picked up on the idea that you can use get translation in the Apple calculator.
So I was just doing my taxes recently, and I was taken aback to see that the separate window that you can open with tape is gone, and you can see history, but it's little teeny tiny text in a line instead of looking like a paper tape, and was much harder to work with. Wonder if anybody has a free calculator app that has a tape like the old calculator app did.
Well, tape shows me the 7 previous days.
Kenji, if you open up that like the little section you said you can see past calculations, if you need it larger, you can go to that text change in the control center that we went over and make that larger for that app. Is that making sense?
I can try that, see if it works.
I just did.
Okay.
Ah.
I still would like it as a tape where its numbers are in a column instead of just in rows.
So Mike, does it from now on stay the same size font, or does when you close the app, does it revert back to?
Oh, it stays on like any of the rest of them.
Even if you close the app and restart it, right?
Correct. Just like if you enlarged your text in messages.
Okay.
Every time you message, you wouldn't have to go back and redo it.
Is the 3 bars in the upper left. That'll bring up the tape.
The 3 bars in the upper left.
I'm in the calculator.
Yeah.
Right under your phone connection information, the upper left hand side.
Phone connection? I don't.
No.
I think you're talking about 2 different
Mine
things.
Yeah, I'm on the Mac. I'm talking about
right.
Oh,
2 different apps.
Different apps. The Mac app behaves very differently.
Oh, I was talking about your phone.
Yeah, I'm talking about the phone too. The thing with the dot and the long dash that there's 4 of right under your phone status. You tap on it and it's going to show you your tape.
Not on the Mac.
No, not on the Mac.
We're talking about the Mac.
No, you guys are confused. They're talking, both of you are talking about some of you are talking about the iPhone and some are talking about the Mac.
So was the video we just watched about the Mac or about the iPhone iPad?
It was about the iPhone iPad.
That's why I was answering it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cheers, me too. But yeah, it goes back months. I'm looking at my past calculations from 2024.
All right. Second miscellaneous item is remove background, replaces copy subject. In October of 2023, I did a miscellaneous item showing how the copy subject from a JPEG or a PNG file, noting it is very simple to do. And I showed the picture, and I showed that if you use that trick of using the activate the icon and press the space key, you can easily extract the subject from the background. But I tried that recently to my dismay. I found that it no longer works with an updated Mac OS, but I discovered that is still possible under the new name of remove background, as shown on the next slide. It's oh so easy to copy the subject from a JPEG or a screenshot. In the 25041 version, you right command a PNG or a JPEG, and you obtain this window. It drops down to that window. And then in the lower portion, you see click the quick actions space, and that opens the next window. And the next window is says remove from background. And if you click on remove from background, on your desktop appears a no background subject. So it's quick and easy to do. Still can be done, but it's certainly changed. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, Lee, is there a selection kind of process where you identify how much of an image you want to copy?
I'm not aware that you were to do something like circle it or something like that to get the portion you want.
It just sort of figures out what you want and
right
and pulls it out. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, now to question and answers and social hour.
Yeah, I have a general comment that the quality of the audio of all those videos today was excellent. They were so clear and so on. And I noticed that of our group, there's several people when you talk, you're a little bit too far from your microphone, and the quality of your speech is not anywhere near as good as it should be for this group. Just a comment.
Whatever
Yeah.
Peter's was particularly different. Just
I wonder if there is a way for anybody or all of us to set our microphones to the certain level so we all come in at the same level instead of one barely able to hear and the other one is muffled and so on and so forth.
Well, an awful lot of it is distance from the microphone. And I know that I won't name names, but I know some of you have sort of laid back and don't get close to your mic, and others do. And that certainly makes a difference.
Well, we also have different devices. And for instance, I have a webcam, and so I'm smaller in my picture, but I think my audio is good, isn't it?
It's great.
Yeah, it's fine.
Kenji, you're not that small in real life?
This big in real life.
Listen, Zoom has a mic, in the settings has a mic volume.
Yes, it does. And there's an automatic setting in there. It's generally it should be on automatic, but for some people, I mean, and there's no setting in Zoom to balance everybody's audio to the same level. It would probably be good. So I go to a lot of Zoom meetings, and some people are really faint and some people are really loud. And
I turned mine up as John's suggestion. I'm running my mic at full in Zoom.
I've had to change to the earbuds with a crappy little Apple microphone. And, that's my budget. That's what I can afford.
But you sound very good now.
Your audio is excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
Clear enunciation facilitates analysis.
Yeah. Well, my problem with the earbuds and with the iPad is I can't lower the volume enough for my hearing. It's way too loud. It doesn't let me adjust it.
Have you looked into Zoom settings? Because you can adjust the audio, the speaker volume in the Zoom setting.
The iPad version of this is sort of crappy for that.
Okay.
I'll try. No. Not much in the way of options.
Okay.
Okay, we'll stop the recording for the presentation. If there are any more questions about anything that was in that, we'll move on to general Q&A.
Evie is a question. Jen has a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Okay.
About the videos or general?
No, a general.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
so
hang on a
that's why
second.
we're
Let
gonna-
him restart the audio.
Okay, we're gonna stop the recording for the public, and we'll move on. Anybody watching this on YouTube, DVMUG members can get the link to the Q&A on the DVMUG BBS.